So presenting today, we have today's webinar, Artificial Intelligence in Credit and Accounts Receivables, Thank a Robot for Your Next Promotion, by Elaine Nowak. As Director of Product Marketing and Management, Elaine is dedicated to educating credit and accounts receivable practitioners about the impact of using an integrated receivables workflow enabled by artificial intelligence to improve key receivable operating metrics. Elaine's mission includes working with financial practitioners and industry partners to identify thought leadership opportunities to share key insights into best practices at industry forums, conferences, and webinars. So without further ado, I am pleased to turn the program over to Elaine Nowak.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Super excited to be here. Welcome, everybody. Just want to go over real quick what I'll be covering today. This is the agenda for my deck. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that we are officially in the digital age, and then I'm going to get into the more specifics of robotic process automation and artificial intelligence and what that evolution looks like for the order to cash space. And then I'll talk a little bit more about taking the plunge. So what does it look like for AR teams, and how do you get some sort of recognition and face time and value for the chief financial officers? And to get in front of them. And then I'll talk about some use cases specifically for artificial intelligence and what you as a credit leader should know. And then I'll talk a little bit about common myths that surround artificial intelligence, and we'll talk about what can be done to build acceptance for artificial intelligence. And then lastly, if we have time, I'll just talk a little bit about HighRadius and what we do as a company. So we are officially in the digital age, as I said. And so what does that mean? What does that look like? So here's it's a cute little meme that I have here that talks about you have someone on the one end who says, "Can you fax me a document?" So he's asked this person on the left is requesting this document, and then you have the little bit more digitally savvy person on the right saying, "I can't fax from here," and the person on the left is like, "Okay, well, why not? Where are you?" And the answer is, I'm in 2020, meaning, hey, you should really be getting with the times. Faxing is a thing of the past, and there's other ways to get information passed along. So what makes this the digital age? There's a ton of terminology that we see thrown around today, especially when it comes to automation. And I find that a lot of people don't really grasp the concepts behind and the nuances between these technologies. So you hear a lot of these fintech vendors, they talk about automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, but for a credit professional, how well are you understanding the role of each of these technologies and their potential impact on your day-to-day job? So today, what I'd like to do is help you understand the what of automation, because that goes a long way to help support the why of automation. And then I'm going to demystify a little bit some of these buzzwords and provide some guidance and get you to say, what the tech is everyone talking about? So, but first, Patricia, I think we're going to have a poll question. I just want to get a pulse of the audience, kind of get a feel, an idea of what the current attendees feel like they know in terms of automation. So the question is, are you aware of the difference between robotic process automation and artificial intelligence in order to cash management? So you could say, yes, I'm very certain. I've seen so many of Elaine's webinars. I know exactly what it is. Or maybe it might be, no, I don't know. Or maybe you have an idea and you're not quite sure. You have the gist of what it is, but if it put on the spot, I don't know that you could really define it per se. So meanwhile, the poll question is up and open. And in order for the screen to share, once that poll question goes away, then I can move on to the next one. I'm curious to see what this audience feels, if they feel like they're a pretty tech savvy group. So just a few more seconds here for that poll question. And then, okay, question should have been answered. Thank you for your responses. So in the meantime, what is the buzz about? So in recent years, we've really seen that technology in finance has evolved to become its own domain. And what are some of the ways in which we're seeing automation and how it can directly impact accounts receivables functions today. So what we've seen is that automation helps maximize your internal team's productivity and efficiency. So this really allows business leaders to do more with less. Automation also enables strategic growth by ensuring that manual repetitive processes are now going to be handled by software and machines. And this allows your analysts to really focus on more strategic functions. Automation also allows global businesses to scale and to deliver on their internal team and their customer expectations. And this helps organizations to keep pace with market changes and drivers. Automation can also help deliver better customer experience because it helps to ensure faster resolution of customer issues. So analysts can improve their customer relationships and create a single channel for seamless communication. And then lastly, overall, technology can really speed up processes. So it increases the productivity, it allows teams to be more effective, and that ultimately really helps companies achieve goals faster and better. So as we enter 2020, we usher in the start of a new decade, and I think it's the perfect time for us to really look back at the evolution of technology and automation in the AR space over the past decade. So 2010 was a time in which cloud solutions were first introduced, so they began appearing. And they really provided an ease of access and a lot higher return on investment when compared to the then standard ERP systems that were in place. And as the years progressed, the scope of automation grew. And the concepts such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, they were also introduced. And now businesses started looking for ways they could jump on the bandwagon and leverage technology to support various functions across their organization. And that included finance and order to cash. Now today, we're seeing the rise of artificially intelligent powered digital assistants such as Frida. Frida is the digital assistant HighRadius has, really taking automation to the next level. I mean, if you'd like to see Frida in action, just ping me at the end and I can take you through a whole video that shows how awesome it is to have a digital assistant who would help you with your AR processes. So the evolution was just trucking right along. And then we said, okay, what are the plans that we have? Every business had a plan for this next decade. So 2020 came in, and what we didn't anticipate was the sudden outbreak of the pandemic of COVID. So no one could have foreseen how much this event and what a huge impact it has had, both on the health and the well-being of us as individuals and businesses worldwide. So never did we imagine that the majority of the world would be doing their jobs from home. But now that is where we are, and we're still facing challenges. Things like there's just not enough resources, or there's issues with time management, or miscues and miscommunication, or even I'm hearing things like lack of equipment or bandwidth issues, and so on. So the questions remain, such as how do you continue operating with a remote workforce? How will business be impacted in the long run? How do we update and address business continuity? And what plans do we need to put in place to operate? How has the onset of this worldwide crisis impacted the pace of automation and digital transformation projects? So we know that COVID-19 is first and foremost a humanitarian crisis, which has impacted our everyday life in both deep and profound ways. Anyone who's been dealing with illness or knows people who are ill, there's a lot of uncertainty at a very personal level. But we also need to understand and adjust to the impact of the outbreak being felt in varying degrees all across the globe. We need to understand the collective effect of this disease and the impact on the world economy. So if we apply some high-level thinking, here are some ways that we see the global economy being impacted by this coronavirus pandemic. So first, there's a demand and supply shock that's happening simultaneously. So this social isolation and these enforced stay-at-home measures that we're seeing in a lot of countries, people are not going out, and the demand for many services and goods have gone down dramatically. Now you combine that with manufacturing units that are getting shut because workers have to stay back. What we see is that essentially the goods supply has become more difficult. And yet at the same time, other goods or services are in so much demand that we're seeing shortages or outrageous pricing. So the business ecosystem is getting disrupted from all directions. So due to a decline in sales, what we're seeing is that companies are adopting pushback strategies to delay payments. Finance leaders are already preparing for a loss in revenue, which directly or indirectly leads to the next two factors on this list, that businesses are now making fewer investments, especially in light of the uncertainty. We don't know how long this situation is going to last, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And many small and medium businesses that are operating with restricted cash flow and working capital are not likely to survive this crisis. So all of this is putting increased pressure on the global financial system. And we're seeing some of the highest rates of unemployment in history. Now, according to the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, it's being said that the global economy could shrink by up to 1% due to this coronavirus. That's a reversal from the previous forecast that said we would be seeing 2.5% growth. So it's a big swing in the opposite direction. So given the challenges and all these potential negative outcomes and the impacts of the coronavirus, you might think that undertaking a new project would be out of the question, that digital transformation would not be possible because of the limited resources, the budget cuts, the furloughs. It feels like it would be too hard to execute. But according to a CXO survey that was conducted by IDC Media Center, enterprise collaboration platforms will benefit most from the epidemic. And 76% of the surveyed industrial users choosing to adopt collaboration platforms, now it's also going to be adopting cloud computing, robotics, artificial intelligence, big data, and 5G. So all of those areas will actually be benefiting from what has gone on with this pandemic. So the true reality is that digital transformation is the new means by which businesses could better adapt and cope with COVID-19 and beyond. So businesses are realizing the true potential of technology in keeping operations running. And companies, they're shown that leverage technology are actually at a competitive advantage to their counterparts. So the findings also indicated that companies who were more tech-oriented actually felt less disruption to their business. And now that we've had so many businesses have actually had to adapt to these huge changes, such as remote working, and additional changes and adoption now seem more doable and less daunting. So change happened, and we changed with the times. We assessed, we learned, and we adapted. So this outbreak has shown that work from home can work, and that it actually provides opportunities for new developments for the future and what could be possible as a norm after this crisis has passed. So let's do another quick poll question here. It should pop up on your screen.
Yes.
What is the top? Go ahead, Patricia.
I'm so sorry, Elaine. I wanted to ask if you wanted the results of the earlier polls shared with the team. I don't know that we took the moment to do that. Okay. So just
what were the results from that
should be
first
seeing
poll?
them here. So yes, I am very. So the question was, are you aware of the difference between RPA and AI in order to cash management? 10% are yes, very certain. 50% were no, I don't know, and 40% I have an idea, but I'm not very sure.
Okay.
And then moving.
That is good. That's good. So about half, it sounds like half said that they really didn't know. So I'm glad that you're here. And then we had some who have heard terms, a little bit familiar, but would like to know some more about 40%. And then there's about 10% that could do the webinar with me, so yay.
All right, I am launching your second poll for you now.
Okay, great. So what is the topmost focus area for your business today? So if you're looking to drive improvement with automation, is it credit management? So maybe using artificial intelligence for risk mitigation or stringent credit reviews. Is it collections management? So automation that might help with work list prioritization or payment date prediction. Or is it billing and payments? So the ability to use technology to receive real-time digital payments during this crisis, for example. Or maybe you're still not sure and you're trying to understand how technology and its capabilities can help you make a decision about which are the areas of improvement you would like to drive. So that poll question is going to stay up for a little bit. We can see that. Okay.
We are at 64% have voted, so if you have not voted yet, please get your vote in. And I'll share it momentarily.
I like the poll questions because then it really gives me a sense of the audience. Well, first of all, I like the participation, and then secondly, it's to sort of see where people are, what is the community, the credit community specifically facing, and where there are areas of concern. So please select an answer, and we'll get some results in just a moment.
Okay. And we do have at this point, the majority have voted. So let me close and share that with the rest. And I know you won't be able to see it, so I will read the results back to you, Elaine. We have for credit management, 9%. The topmost focus is collections management for 36%. Billing and payments, 18%, and still not sure, 36%. So a tie there with collections management.
Okay, and I'm sure collections management is very top of mind, especially considering the uncertainty and a lot of these small and medium-sized businesses they could be on the brink of bankruptcy as a result of all that's going on. So let's talk a little bit now. I'm going to kind of focus in a little bit more on the technology itself, especially in today's challenging environment. And I want to talk about the fact that it could actually have immediate and beneficial impact on business operations and how we're defining this technology and how it could be best employed with regard to the order to cash processes. So to start with, I want to define some of these technical terms, and you'll often hear them being used. And for those who are not the uninitiated, so that was about half of the audience here, it can be a little confusing, all these terms, and it can also maybe be even a little daunting. But let's start with robotic process automation, or RPA. I'll give you a little bit more of a scientific definition, and then I'll kind of simplify it a little bit. But RPA actually refers to the pre-configured software instances that use business rules and predefined activity choreography to complete the autonomous execution. That means execution that's being done without interference by humans. And it does so in a combination of processes or activities, transactions, and tasks. So that's what the RPA can execute in one or more unrelated systems. So it's good when you have a bunch of disparate systems. And it does all of this work to drive a result or a service with human exception management. So any kind of errors or exceptions for anything not defined strictly by the RPA and its process execution needs to be done by humans. Now, on the other hand, artificial intelligence is the combination of cognitive automation, machine learning, reasoning, hypothesis generation, and analysis. And it also does natural language processing, which means it's able to understand human speech. And it has intentional algorithm mutation. So that means that it actually learns and it changes and adapts. And this produces insights and analytics at or above human capacity. So what does that all mean? So for simplicity's sake, when you think of RPA, it is a software robot that mimics human actions. Whereas artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence by machines. So on the most fundamental level, RPA is associated with doing, whereas artificial intelligence and machine learn are associated with thinking and learning, respectively. So RPA is able to process data, but it has to be in a very rigid and structured format. Anything that falls out of that format will produce an error. Whereas artificial intelligence can be fed with both structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. It can take data in any format and still be able to process it. RPA is also very highly process-driven. So it's all about automating repetitive, high-volume, rule-based processes that typically require interaction with multiple disparate systems. Now, on the other hand, artificial intelligence is all about good quality data, and it deals with probabilities and variables. So it's able to handle various scenarios. And that is the biggest difference, is that artificial intelligence actually evolves with experience and exposure to data. It actually learns. So how do we apply these technologies to best effort for order to cash processes? What I'd like to do now is take a look at how technology improves and optimizes credit, collections, deductions, and cash application. So first, looking at the digital evolution of credit management, we know that effective credit control is about striking the right balance to maximize sales and minimize risk. So when credit management is all manual, on top of distributing and collecting and storing all these paper credit applications that at times are filled out incorrectly or missing information, we see that credit managers are struggling with inefficient collaboration between sales and other teams. And even when once that credit application is received and you've gone back and forth to get missing information, now you have to input financials or payment history or other reports from credit bureaus. And all that also has to be gathered manually if you don't have any kind of technology in place to help get this information together. So when this manual work must be repeated across the entire customer portfolio, or with the onboarding of numerous new customers, credit departments are now becoming exceedingly inefficient, and your risk is going to escalate. So if you introduce robotic process automation into the management of your credit, what you're seeing then is online credit application, the accuracy is going to be improved exponentially, and that whole process is going to be sped up for onboarding new customers. And the credit agency data is automatically collected and integrated and used to calculate your scores and the risk class recommendations that it makes for these new applications or for customers you already have. And then correspondence can be templated and packaged to be sent out to customers. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and introduce artificial intelligence, what you're going to see now is scoring models that can be dynamically updated and calculated. And artificial intelligence can conduct continuous credit reviews and provide recommendations for account limit updates. AI can also be used to predict blocked orders before they occur by analyzing customer history, looking at previous order characteristics, and thus it helps to streamline the process for extending credit limits, applying cash, and preventing orders from being blocked. So next, if we look at collections management, we know that customer segmentation and work list prioritization, when they're done manually, really take a lot of time and effort, and there's little standardization or collection strategies that are being employed consistently. If it's manual, then the correspondence has to be put together. It has to be the status and update of all the information that you need, the associated materials, the message you want to send to each and every customer has to all be manually created and collected. And there really is no central place to store your backup documentation, your call notes, maybe information about payment commitments or even your account history. So now introduce robotic process automation, and RPA will help segment your customers, and it will help you to create a prioritized work list based on standard predefined rules. So it's a work list that's prioritized, but it's a static work list. RPA can also then recommend certain actions based on predefined collection strategies. And correspondence can be automated, and a single source of truth with a centralized repository can also be deployed. But add the next level, the next layer of technology and artificial intelligence enhanced technology, and now your system is going to be able to automatically predict payment behavior, such as providing you with a date that that customer is going to pay and when that payment is going to could be expected. And then AI can also help auto-generate dynamically prioritized work lists with suggested actions that are customized according to individual account activity and behavior. So your work list is actually constantly being updated and shuffled, and the priority of who should be reached out to and what should be worked on is constantly changing because all these factors are being taken into consideration and actions are being recommended accordingly. So now when we look at deductions management, if we go back to a manual deductions process, we know that deduction identification and making sure the deductions are valid, it's very time consuming, and it can be error prone because it's being done manually, being done by humans. So the downloading and the aggregation of all that backup material, that has to be collected, it has to be assembled. You might have to go to all your emails, you might have to go to your fax machine if you're still using that. It might even be something that's being mailed on paper, or you might have to be logging into all these different web portals and extracting all this backup information. So that research and the collaboration is all done manually between the different teams, and the outreach that you're doing to your customers if you need more information or need to get clarification. And all that post-resolution has to be handled manually as well. Now you introduce robotic process automation into the scenario, and this technology is able to help identify disputes and collect that backup documentation automatically. But there is still a need to manually research and collaborate all deductions. So if you go to the next level and employ artificial intelligence, and the research and collaboration are not only done automatically and routed for approval, but the artificial intelligence can also predict the validity of your deductions based on multiple factors, things like customer history. And that's going to allow your analysts and your team to focus on just the invalid deductions that need the research and the resolution. So it's prioritizing their time and optimizing the deductions management workflow. So lastly, let's talk a little bit about the digital evolution of cash application. And when we look at it through the lens of strategic importance, we see, and we hear this quite a bit, that it's where the lowest strategic processes happen here. It's not very strategic cash application, and yet it requires the highest amount of manual effort. So it's low strategic importance, high manual effort, and that makes it a major pain point. So the role of automation in cash application becomes pivotal. The manual cash application process has various challenges. Again, that manual downloading and collecting of remittance information that comes in multiple formats from various sources. It might be PDFs or Word files or emails or attachments. And it might be coming in from all different sources, web portals and emails. And all that information has to be collected in all these different formats. And then that remittance has to be matched to the payment information that's coming in. So all those remittances now have to be reconciled with the payments from the bank and ultimately lined up as a linked file to determine your open invoices and how you can close them within your ERP system. So all of this manual process, it is super resource heavy, and it takes a lot of time and effort. But if you put the robotic process automation and the artificial intelligence into the mix, you're going to see that scenario will change. because remittance details from email attachments, the AI-enabled technology is now going to pull that information and collect it automatically. And that helps ensure the accuracy that the data that's being captured across all the different formats and in various languages and from various sources. And the technology is also allowing deductions to be identified at the source, because it looks and it understands when something is short paid or something is overpaid. When there's payment discrepancies, the system's able to recognize that. ERP-specific reason codes can be mapped and assigned based on chosen parameters. So reason codes can be applied to short pay and discrepancies in payments. And payment matching can be done automatically to invoices, even in the most complex scenarios when there's missing remittance information or truncated reference numbers. The system is able to still open, reconcile, match payments, and close out invoices automatically. So what makes this artificial intelligence technology even more helpful is that it self-learns and it analyzes patterns. So it can even identify previously unidentified remittance information. So again, that remittance information doesn't have to come in a very completely rigid and structured format. The AI is able to read it. And what's even more awesome is that the AI over time will recognize patterns even in some of the exceptions. So if it sees that an exception happens the same way over and again, then the AI can recognize that pattern and eventually close out that exception automatically as well. So all of this to help optimize the entire cash application process. So how can you use technology to help you get your next promotion? So technology is really going to allow accounts receivable teams to transform to a much more strategic position. And this is going to elevate the role of accounts receivable in the company and really get the attention of the CFO. So with COVID-19 hitting the globe and with all this uncertainty, we know that our CFO team, our CFO office, and the finance teams really have a tremendous amount on their plate. So given that, I really think that this is the time that accounts receivable leaders really need to transform their job responsibilities and show the value and the economic impact that automating accounts receivable can really have for organizations. I know that I hear this a lot, that sales teams are perceived as the most important asset of a company. You know, without sales, you don't really have a company. But to operate efficiently, the sales team really requires the business insight that's generated from the credit team. So oftentimes, what we're seeing is that managing and maximizing your cash flow is not directly equated to increasing the total number of sales. What's also needed is to make each one of your sales more profitable. This, in turn, broadens the scope of what a credit manager needs to monitor in the time of a crisis. So times like these, we really need to ensure minimal risk exposure by performing stringent credit reviews during new customer onboarding. We also have to be sure to ensure that our global credit policy updates near real time, because the economy and what's happening is ever evolving. And so credit managers really need to find the right balance between risk mitigation and new sales enablement. And technologies such as artificial intelligence could be leveraged to eliminate a lot of those mundane sort of administrative clerical tasks. And then credit leaders can then move towards more strategic responsibilities and higher value work that can be done. So how could the credit team add value? So again, it's highlighted here on the slide, 3 key points: by mitigating risk, by enabling the sales team to support revenue and profitability goals, and by evaluating customers and making informed decisions regarding retention and collections. So if we consider the impact of accounts receivable on AR, the impact of technology on the AR teams. The major area which would get hampered without technology is cash flow. So in a time like this, it's really important to have your cash flow. I mean, businesses, we can see they're going to expect there's going to be a dip in the cash flow, and we know that working capital management is only going to become more and more significant of a problem within organizations. We also know that a lot of small and medium-sized businesses may go bankrupt, and some of those large loyal customers that you have actually might start showing signs of delinquency, and you might start seeing requests to reset payment terms. So these factors are all going to increase the work for the credit teams, because now they have to conduct more regular credit analysis for their existing accounts, as well as these new customers who are coming on board. And they really want to make sure that they're able to cover the present due and the payments and invoices that are due at the present, and address the past dues that are going to come up in the future. So what should that plan of action be? First and foremost, maintaining a steady cash flow is paramount. This requires a few changes to the most existing credit management operations. So to maintain a steady cash flow, credit managers are going to need to deploy globally standardized yet flexible credit policies to suit market requirements. Secondly, they're going to need to really conduct stringent credit reviews for new customers, because you want to ensure that those customers have credit worthiness, and you want to make sure you're positioned for early recovery. And thirdly, you want to perform proactive credit reviews for existing customers, because you want to be able to prevent blocked orders and or prepare for indications of potential bankruptcy from some of these customers. So now I'm going to explore a little bit more in detail these 3 action items and how they can be achieved with the help of artificial intelligence and robotic process automation. So first, deploying globally standardized yet flexible credit policies to suit market requirements. So because we're seeing this uncertainty in the macroeconomic environment, your company's attitude towards risk exposure is undoubtedly going to change. And this is going to result in changes to your credit policy or your risk strategies. You're going to start seeing that these buyers will need longer payment terms, and they might actually reveal that they have insufficient funds to cover their invoices. And as a supplier, you're also going to need to conduct stringent reviews. You're going to need to set these stricter credit limits and understand the new risk category of customers. A customer that was once a low risk category might now be a moderate or high risk customer, and you need to have that insight and information. So by leveraging tools that are powered by robotic process automation and AR, you can transform these rapidly evolving credit policies into credit scoring models, and you'll be able to combine external credit data and public financial data so that every credit analyst on your team will be able to make risk decisions that are aligned to your company strategy and newly revamped credit policies. So next, conducting stringent credit reviews for new customers to ensure credit worthiness and early recovery. So it also may happen that you're going to see a shift in a customer's risk category. A once moderate risk customer can now be a high risk customer. And because this environment is continuously changing, we're seeing that some businesses might even experience an increase in demand, or others are experiencing a dip in demand. So credit analysts could manually handle all these ad hoc requests and extensions for credit limits and payment terms and the like. But if you have an artificially intelligent powered engine, that would help ensure that decisions are made that factor in multiple variables and scenarios for the most insightful outcomes. So as new credit requests arrive from existing customers and new applications are submitted from potential customers, technology could help speed up the process to review requests. And now you're going to allow your analysts to make more accurate decisions with automated credit scoring that's aligned to your credit policy. So if we consider the case on this slide, for example, we've got Emma here. She's a credit analyst, and she needs to handle 20 new customer applications to review as well as assess 30 credit line extension requests. Now, if this was to be done manually, you can imagine the time that this would take. But with technology, Emma could quickly perform credit reviews, apply risk segmentation and recommended credit limits, and officially handle the myriad number of credit line extension requests. So thirdly, credit managers are going to need to proactively review credit limits for existing customers to minimize blocked orders and/or mitigate for bankruptcy. So looking at periodic reviews for existing customers, it can be a very manual process. It's time consuming if you don't have some kind of automation in place. You have to set the date for the review of that account, and usually you only have time for a few key or very large accounts. So a lot of your accounts are going to get neglected. And then you have to manually extract the data from the ERP system. You're going to have to collect reports from the credit bureaus, download those reports, extract that necessary information. And once you have all that information together, now you're going to have to review that data. And then you're going to have to manually calculate the credit score and set those credit limits or reset those credit limits. And this is going to, and then you have to send that recommendation for approval and finally update the credit information in the ERP system. When it comes to managing blocked orders, this process, if you don't have automation or some kind of technology in place, it can be very manual. And again, time consuming, requires resources, and there's a lot of interdepartmental collaboration that has to take place in order to resolve that blocked order. The credit team is going to receive the notice from the order management system, and they have to check the outstanding amount in the ERP, then they have to notify the collections team about the customer status. So that's when it gets transferred to the collection team. Now they have to call the customer, they have to get in touch with the customer, and then they have to get the payment commitment, they have to record that promise to pay. Then they'll in turn go back and alert the credit team about the payment, and then the credit team might release that order based on this verbal commitment to pay, right? And they'll have to schedule a reminder, follow up on the payment status. And then once they're reminded, now they have to get in touch with the cash application team and find out the update, make sure that cash has been applied, the incoming payment and that remittance information has all been processed. So because of this, and a lot of this manual effort that is involved, there are some major challenges in doing periodic reviews and managing these blocked orders. So significant time is wasted in downloading and extracting. This results in delays for the processes. It becomes very error prone as well. So there's a lot of back and forth. You have to get approvals. Plus the reaction is a very reactive approach to blocked orders. So the question becomes, are you and your credit and collection teams working through those processes manually? And when you can leverage technology and artificial intelligence, you can really transform the work of your credit and collections team and allow them to focus on more strategic initiatives and tasks. So I want to give you some 5 quick use cases where artificial intelligence and robotic process automation can actually help you in scenarios. So first, it'll help you respond to every new credit application from existing customers and from new customers. And it can do this with high speed through an online credit application system. And it really allows your analysts to make accurate decisions with automated credit scoring that are aligned to your credit policy. The second use case where we can see the powerful impact that artificial intelligence and robotic process automation can have is that it actually automates the retrieval of essential credit report and information from leading credit agencies such as Dun & Bradstreet or Experian, or credit insurance data from providers such as Euler, Hermes, or HighRadius, and public financials from organizations such as Edgar. So all of this information is gathered, is automatically extracted and downloaded from all these various sources in all these different formats. And then this helps to facilitate the credit decision making for the teams. Another use case is the risk mitigation through dynamic credit scoring. So during these really difficult times, some of the customers, like I've talked about, might have to be moved to a higher risk class, or they might even go bankrupt. So in this situation, it's better to have a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. So a dynamic credit scoring model will help you get real-time bankruptcy alerts. The AI and the RPA will help retrieve relevant information and extract the necessary data to automatically recalculate credit scores and limits and make recommendations. And this is going to help facilitate the credit decision making for your teams. So they can actually employ a structured workflow and you can actually get through approvals faster. So the model that we're seeing here in this example, it's built out of your existing credit scoring and the reports and the ratings across major credit agencies. And then additionally, the AI engine will give predictions about the financial stress factors and the potential impact on the credit risk for your customers. The fourth scenario is that artificial intelligence can help you conduct proactive credit reviews. So using the artificial intelligence, the credit scoring model will automatically get updated based on any change in the set parameters. So it will take into account both internal factors, such as aging details, or claim and payment history, or average days delinquent, plus external factors, such as seasonal spikes, or fluctuations in the stock market, or bankruptcy alerts. I mean, anyone who watched the news yesterday and watched oil prices absolutely tank, the system can be alerted that that kind of thing is happening. And then the system will also make those recommendations to update the credit limits for both small and large accounts in real time. The AI will automatically trigger credit reviews for deteriorating accounts, and then it will also automate the credit recommendations and include reviews for even your smallest accounts. And it also can conduct specialized credit reviews for large customers and continuously monitor accounts across the entire portfolio. And the fifth use case is the proactive management of potentially blocked orders. So with AI enhanced technology, blocked order management becomes proactive instead of reactive. The AI predicts when the credit limit is approaching for any given account by analyzing things like customer history or previous order characteristics. And this prediction, this date, it sets this credit limit utilization workflow in motion that automatically sends out correspondence to the customer. They'll have a link within that correspondence so they can make a payment directly in a payment portal. Now, this online payment then could be quickly processed and automatically applied, and then the credit limit could be updated. So predicting blocked orders helps enable credit teams to proactively direct collections efforts for identified accounts. So another quick poll question we have up. Just want to see if the people would be interested in understanding more about this technology and something like the Credit Cloud solution. So you can answer the questions, sign up for the demo, or connect to an expert, or maybe later, or maybe you're not interested. So those questions will stay up for a few minutes. So next, I think we're coming up on time, but I just want to cover just a few more points. And then we'll look to see if there were any questions that came in. And one of the things I want to really do is to demystify some of the common myths and to build that acceptance around artificial intelligence. So as soon as the poll question has all the responses have come in, then I will start talking a little bit about some of these common myths and what they look like. I think even as the poll question is wrapping up, I'm going to just kick it off. And one of the first things that I hear is that artificial intelligence, it's only a temporary thing, that that it's just a fad, and maybe it's going to come and go. But what I'd like to say is that I really think that the wave of what we call digital disruption, it's inevitable. It's coming, and it's here to stay. And it's really a huge part of our lives. If you think about it, it's already entered your pockets in your phone. It's already on your computers. It's already in your TV. It's made your home life really a lot easier. You think about thermostats that can automatically change, and Alexa turning on your lights or locking your doors. But now what we're seeing is that it's made your life at home easier, and now it's going to start really making your work life easier. The second myth that we see a lot is it's humans versus machines. When you think about pitting humans against machines, Hollywood loves that concept. They have a lot of movies. We can think of a few: Terminator, iRobot, and some others. And when you're trying to pursue artificial intelligence in this modern culture, it actually seems to end pretty badly for the humans, if you go by what the Hollywood standards are. And they're trying to strive for dominance and crush the human spirit. Well, we really think that it's going to be humans plus machines, that working together, it's going to really grow your business. And it's not going to replace a system, but rather it's going to work to be a part of the systems you have in place. And so that working together, humans plus machines is going to offer a better quality of life at work and at home. The third myth that we see is that AI is a job killer, that in the business world, you think of technology, it's kind of remote and cold, it steals jobs, there's negative customer reactions, no one wants to talk to a telephone robot, and there's concerns around data security, cyber breaches, and all sorts of things that technology brings. But the purpose of technology is not to replace humans, but for humans to focus on problems that require critical thinking and strategy. And that's going to help them make better decisions. So the technology is there to enhance the way that they work. So much like the humble spreadsheet came along, now AI is going to provide a jolt of productivity to a wide range of jobs. And that's going to vault these functional areas, especially credit and accounts receivable back office functions that aren't very sexy or get a lot of attention. And now they're going to be much more valued and have much bigger impact on the bottom line for the company. And they're going to get the notice of the CFO. The fourth myth is that AI is flawless. But like any other machine, it has flaws, but it does deliver results according to its design. And it has huge potential to improve our lives and our workplaces. So automation it is better and more efficient than humans in some cases. And machines will most likely replace people altogether in those instances. But in many more cases, these machines, this technology, this software, it's going to scan, it's going to sort information, it's going to make predictions, it's going to offer alternatives. And then humans, using judgment, using empathy, using our business skills, are going to apply that information to best effect. So it's a matter not simply of placing humans in the process, but of the process being built to augment human decision making. And then finally, I hear things like, artificial intelligence, it's difficult to understand. But like any complicated process, AI can be explained and broken down so that it is understood, and its advantages are able to be seen and felt. So I would say 3 main things: educate, learn about the capabilities of AI and RPA, how it's being utilized to improve performance at companies, and then assess how it could be used within your organization. Second, I would say embrace. Now, once you understand the capabilities, it's critical to accept that the future is upon us and will continue to develop and advance. And then thirdly, empower. Start taking the necessary steps to be ready for the automation and for the autonomous age of receivables. So just to reiterate, the latest technology, things like artificial intelligence and virtual assistants, they can radically transform how credit as a function would evolve. So credit analysts could focus on these value-added projects with this higher impact rather than completing just these transactional type tasks. So build a culture of acceptance towards AI, help your teams get over the fear of the unknown. Embrace, educate, empower. Proactively lead your digital transformation for the function. Understand process efficiency gaps within your organization and how technology and that return on investment can come about, and that'll help gain the executive buy-in. It'll show the strategic and the bottom line value that automation and an efficient O2C process can provide for an organization. Look to change management and training. Functional and technical training for AR analysts to adapt to automated systems is key. So arm yourself with the right skills, with the tools needed to be future ready, and establish yourself as an irreplaceable strategic role within your company. And then track and analyze your metrics. So how has your team performance changed after you have implemented and leveraged technology? Keep a baseline to track performance improvements, and then compare it with industry benchmarks so that you can optimize your KPIs and the things that you're measuring. So just a quick about HighRadius. We're a fintech enterprise software as a service company, and we leverage artificial intelligence and autonomous-based systems to help companies automate. We kind of evolved with the technology as time came around, and we're the only provider of the integrated receivables platform for the entire O2C process. We also have treasury management platform, and that's going to help teams to accurately do cash forecasting using AI and do touchless cash management and bank reconciliation. So we have we've got hundreds of customers. Here's a partial list of some of those customers. We've done almost 1,000 finance transformation projects across 6 continents and 92 countries. We have a global footprint with more than 950 implementations worldwide, and we have offices in North America, Europe, and South Central Asia. So I know we don't have very much time, Patricia, but I was wondering if any questions came in from our audience today.
I do have one quick question for you, but prefacing, because I'm sure we may lose people just at the top of the hour for other meetings. If there are any other questions that we don't get to today, and I know that there will be, please contact Elaine directly at HighRadius. Her email address is elaine.nowak@highradius.com, and I'll send that out to all of you also, as well as a link to the on-demand version of this webinar once that file is available. So the quick question is, how long is it going to take before artificial intelligence becomes a norm in AR and finance, Elaine?
So I think that we're definitely seeing an uptick. Even when I started talking about things like artificial intelligence, even just 2 and 3 years ago, I found that there was a lot more people who weren't aware of it. And now we're starting to see the uptick. We're starting to see it's becoming much more prevalent in conversations, at topics, at different conferences. And we're seeing that the interest is definitely sparking. I think, as with all things, I actually think that this whole pandemic and what's happened with COVID is actually going to speed up the rate at which technology is going to be embraced for a lot of the reasons that I covered in the webinar, because I think that we've seen that remote working, which is a lot of technology based, has actually been possible. And so I think that it opens the door for additional transformation. So I would say within the next 5 years, we're going to really see a tremendous change in the back office functions as a result of technology.
I think we can certainly see that happening. And I'm afraid we are out of time, and I can see that some of our attendees are dropping out, so I'm sure they are off to other meetings. Thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you, Elaine, for your very timely insights, and we will be in touch with additional information and additional contact information. Thank you all for being here, and have a great day.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate you having us. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.